You know, I was staring at my calendar this morning, and it honestly looked like a game of Tetris that I was losing.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It's just blocks.
Yeah.
Blocks of meetings, blocks of tasks, reminders to call this person, email that person. And if I'm being honest, there's this low-level anxiety hum in the background.
Right.
It's this feeling that if I don't check every single one of those boxes, I haven't actually done anything today.
That is the universal hum of the modern condition, isn't it?
It is. It's like we have this internal pedometer installed at birth or something.
Yeah.
We measure our worth by, the sheer volume of our output.
How many hours did we log? How many dollars did we
How
generate?
many milestones did we crush? Yeah, we are obsessed with doing.
We have successfully, or maybe unsuccessfully, equated busy with valuable. If you aren't moving, you don't matter. It's a very industrial way to look at a human life.
Exactly. And that is why I really wanted to do this specific deep dive today.
Yeah.
Because we have a stack of sources here centered around a text titled Emelin Uzu, which translates to the essence of action. And to be blunt, this text takes that entire hustle culture worldview, looks at it, and essentially says that you might be doing it all wrong.
It actually goes much further than just saying you're doing it wrong. It argues that you could be doing everything. Running a marathon every day, leading industries, fighting wars.
Of all the things.
All the things. And the actual value of that output could be absolute zero.
Which is a terrifying thought. It's like finding out the currency you've been saving your whole life is worthless in the country you're actually moving to.
That is a perfect analogy. And that's the mission for this deep dive. We aren't looking at productivity hacks to squeeze more juice out of your day.
Wow.
We are analyzing a paradox presented in the source material. It's the paradox where a lifetime of blood, sweat, and tears can result in no progress, literally standing still, while a single, small, almost invisible action can launch someone to the peak of perfection.
Okay, so let's get into this. Because when I first read through the notes, I felt defensive. I think most people would. We are raised on the idea that hard work pays off. Input equals output, right?
Of course.
But this text suggests there is a missing variable in that equation.
There is. And that variable is the difference between a corpse and a living being.
Okay.
The text argues that without this specific essence, even the most heroic deeds, leaving your warm bed to pray, fighting on the front lines, enduring immense hardship, are lifeless. It uses a very stark term. It calls them corpses.
Corpses. That is not a subtle metaphor.
No, it's not meant to be subtle. It's meant to wake you up. The text draws a sharp line in the sand. It says every action you take falls into one of two categories. It is either valid and living, or it is counterfeit and worthless.
So let's unpack the counterfeit side first.
Yeah.
Because the text describes people who sound like they're doing everything right. They're described as veterans of their cause. They face danger.
They sacrifice comfort. They're in the trenches.
From the outside, they look like heroes. But the source says they haven't moved a needle's length.
Yeah.
How's that? I mean, how is that physically or metaphysically possible? If I walk a mile, I've moved a mile.
In the physical world, yes. But this text is dealing with spiritual physics. The problem with the group you just mentioned is that they are operating solely in the realm of quantity, or what the text calls chemiet.
Right.
They are relying on the physical exertion, the sweat, the hours logged to provide the value. They think the heaviness of the action comes from how hard it was to do.
They're counting the steps on that internal pedometer we were talking about.
Exactly. And the text contrasts them with a second group. This group might exert little hardship, maybe just a small effort, a small kindness, a brief moment of reflection.
Mm-hmm.
But the text says in one or two steps, they make a kavzirus.
Kavzirus. Okay, that's a term we need to define.
It translates to an arc of ascent. So imagine a quantum leap. They leap over obstacles that the other group has been hacking away at for decades. They hit the summit of perfection almost instantly.
I have to play devil's advocate here. That sounds like a cheat code. It feels unfair. Why does the guy who barely breaks a sweat get the summit while the grinder gets stuck at the bottom?
It feels unfair if you look at it through a linear transactional mindset, like a vending machine where you put in a coin and get a candy.
Right.
But the text uses this brilliant metaphor here involving weight to explain the physics of it.
Right.
It says that at this level, quantity surrenders to quality. Think of it this way. An atom of true essence becomes heavier than a ton of empty action.
So a single atom versus a ton.
Explicitly, the text says a ton of action can drop to the level of a mere particle in value, while a particle of this essence can weigh as much as a ton.
Wow.
It goes even further. It says a single moment One specific, correctly aligned moment can be the seed that allows an entire eternal realm to bloom.
On the other side,
Meanwhile, 60 years of routine, empty action might not be enough to manufacture a single brick for paradise.
that is a staggering amount of weight to place on a single moment. It implies that time isn't what matters. It's what is inside the time.
Precisely. The text mentions that there is a great something inside the action. When that something is present, it gives life to dull, ordinary behaviors. When it's absent, even the most lively, energetic actions are dead.
It reminds me of those wax fruits you see in furniture displays.
That's a perfect analogy. A wax apple can look more perfect, shinier, and redder than a real apple picked off a tree. It never rots. It looks great on Instagram.
For sure.
But if you eat the wax apple, it offers no nutrition. It's dead matter. The real apple might be small, it might have a bruise, but it contains the seeds of life. This text is teaching us how to tell the difference between the wax and the fruit.
Okay, so if the math isn't linear, if 60 years can equal 0 and 1 second can equal eternity, what is the variable? What is this great something that turns the wax into fruit?
The source is very clear on this, but it requires us to redefine a word we use every day. The center of valuation is the heart.
The heart. Now, when you say heart, are we talking about emotions? The I feel good about this vibe? Because feelings are pretty fickle.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. In this context, the heart isn't just the seat of fleeting emotions. The text refers to it as the Kensia hidden treasure, or the sacred house.
Okay.
It describes the heart as the specific location where the creator looks to assign value. It's the receptor.
The receptor for what?
For intention and reality. The text argues that as long as a human being runs away from themselves, as long as they remain a stranger to their own internal state, they can never discover the secret of making little count as much.
So you can't fake it.
You can't automate this. You can't fake it with volume. It's about deep, sometimes uncomfortable self-knowledge. The text argues that many people run away from their hearts because looking inside is scary.
I can see that.
But the text asks a very intimidating question. If the creator looks at the heart every moment, how can one remain indifferent to it?
That's a lot of pressure. It's like having a camera in your soul.
It changes the game completely. We are being measured and weighed by the state of our internal world continuously. If a person fits their behavior to their heart, meaning their external actions are a true reflection of a purified internal state, they don't need to rely on volume.
They don't need to read libraries of books or chant endless prayers.
Exactly. The sincerity is the polish.
But this brings us to the danger zone the text warns about. Because if you don't have that internal connection, but you still want to be good or successful, what do? You start compensating.
Exactly. You compensate with external noise. We call this the trap of formalism. The text warns about people who look incredibly religious or successful. They rely on the number of scriptures they read. They rely on the physical act of chanting, or dhikr.
They're checking the boxes on the spiritual to-do list.
And they convince themselves they are becoming noble. But the text doesn't mince words about these people. It describes them as potentially the most unfortunate of people.
Wow.
It even calls them a plaything of Satan.
A plaything of Satan. That seems harsh for someone who is literally praying or fighting for a cause. I mean, they're trying, aren't they?
It seems harsh, but think about the deception. They are performing the mechanics of piety without the spirit of it. They are what the text calls the ignorant spectators of the garden. They see the leaves and the branches, but they don't understand the root. And because they are focused on the external, the look of being good, they're easily manipulated by their own ego. They start loving the praise of being the religious guy or the hardworking guy more than the act itself.
To illustrate this difference between the spectator and the knower, the source brings up a really specific example. It mentions a figure called the Great Sincere One.
Right.
And this person says, Estagfirullah, which means I seek forgiveness, 70 times a day.
A classic stumbling block for readers.
Yeah, because normally if I hear someone is asking for forgiveness 70 times a day, I assume they're messing up constantly, sinning left and right. But that's not what's happening here, is it?
No. The text poses that exact question. Was this for a visible slip-up? Was he committing crimes? And the answer is an emphatic no, never.
So why ask for forgiveness? If you haven't done anything wrong, what are you apologizing for?
You have to imagine a rocket taking off. This great sincere one is ascending spiritually at what the text calls a dizzying speed. Every second, he is higher than he was the second before.
Okay, I'm visualizing the rocket.
Now, when he looks down from his new height, the station he was at just a moment ago seems low. It seems inadequate.
Oh, I see.
It seems distant from the perfection he now sees. He asks forgiveness not for his sin, but for the inadequacy of his previous state compared to his new awareness.
That is high-level stuff.
He uses astaghfirullah as a shield. He's protecting his heart from being satisfied with the lower levels he just left. He refuses to settle. He's constantly shedding his past self to get closer to the divine.
It's like breaking the sound barrier of the soul. The forgiveness is just the sonic boom trailing behind him.
That's a fantastic analogy, and the text makes a point to say, you can only understand this if you are aware of your heart. If you are just a spectator, just going through the motions, this kind of sensitivity makes no sense to you.
Right, you just think, why is he apologizing? He didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
It really highlights the difference between doing religion and being in a state of connection. But there is another trap the text mentions, one that I think is even easier for us modern listeners to fall into. It's the I trap, the ego.
Oh, yes, the claim of ownership. The text is very firm on this. Humans are inherently needy. We are poor in the metaphysical sense. We have needs that are endless. We need air, water, love, purpose, and our power to guarantee those things is tiny. We are fragile. The text says we are like a king in a palace surrounded by flowers and beauty, but we didn't build the palace.
Right.
Exactly. Any beauty, any success, any talent we have is a gift from a hand of kindness. It is given to us because of our poverty, not our power. So the text argues that to say, I did this, I earned this, or I achieved this is a form of theft.
Theft. That's a strong word.
Yes, it's ingratitude. It's taking a gift and claiming you manufactured it. The text says you couldn't even handle 1% of it with your own personal power. If you actually analyzed all the causes and effects behind your success, you'd realize you are just a vessel.
The canvas, not the painter.
Exactly. You are the canvas, not the painter. And to make this concrete, the text gives us two powerful metaphors to explain how to break this ego trap. One is general and one is historical. Let's look at the gladiator.
I love this image. Set the scene for us.
Imagine a gladiator in the arena. He has just fought lions and tigers. He has defeated his opponent. The crowd is roaring. He is standing there, chest heaving, victorious.
Okay.
He is about to raise his sword in that ultimate moment of triumph, the are you not entertained moment, the moment where you feel like you are the center of the universe.
But for sure, the ego takes over.
Yes. But in that exact second, the text says he must check his heart. He must realize, I have become a servant. He has to take the credit that the crowd is giving him and hand it over to the divine instantly. He has to say, I am a slave, right when everyone treats him like a god.
That requires incredible mental discipline. To be high on adrenaline and victory and yet be grounded in humility feels almost impossible.
It's the ultimate mastery. It's harder than fighting the lion. And that leads us to the historical centerpiece of the text, Tariq ibn Ziyad.
The famous commander who conquered Spain.
Yes. This is a story about handling success. The text paints a vivid scene. Tariq has just achieved a massive victory. He enters the treasury of the defeated king. We are talking about a room filled with priceless gold, pearls, jewels, unimaginable wealth.
The kind of wealth that changes history. And he does something strange.
Very strange. He steps on the gold. He literally puts his foot on top of these priceless pearls. He tramples them. And he has a conversation with himself right there in the treasury.
What does he say?
He says, Tariq, the day before yesterday you were a slave. Yesterday you were a commander. Today you are a conqueror.
And then the reality check.
Be careful. Tomorrow you will be under the soil.
That gives me chills.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you will be under the soil. He's standing on a literal mountain of gold, and he's reminding himself of his grave.
And he acts on it. That's the key. He has the world at his feet. He could live like a king. But instead, he decides to sleep in a humble spot. An isby like a shack or a dark corner. And he prays for something very specific.
What's that?
He prays that no one, except maybe a few students, ever knows where his grave is.
Why? Why would a conqueror want to be forgotten? We build statues for conquerors. We name cities after them.
Because he feared that fame would give his ego a share. He didn't want the applause. He wanted the act to be purely for the divine. The text compares him to the Roman commander Cincinnatus.
Right, Cincinnatus is the classic example we learn in history class.
Yeah.
The guy who won the war, saved Rome, and then went back to his farm.
Cincinnatus is often held up as the ideal of civic virtue. He gave up power to return to his plow. But the text argues that Tariq's sincerity was even higher, even more profound.
How so? Cincinnatus walked away from power. That's pretty big.
Because Cincinnatus's action was social, it was about civic duty and the Republic. Tariq's action was deeply spiritual and internal. It was a heartfelt mastery. Cincinnatus went back to a farm. Tariq went back to the soil of his own nothingness while still holding the power.
He didn't just leave the job, he left the eye.
Exactly, he left the eye. And that concept, the erasure of the self, leads us to the final and I think most beautiful metaphor in this deep dive, the concept of toprak olmak, becoming soil.
It is the climax of the text, isn't it?
It is. It asks, how do we grow? How do we achieve the spiritual height where one atom weighs more than a ton? The answer is counterintuitive. You don't climb up, you go down, you become soil.
The text says, to grow roses, one must become soil.
To raise humans, one must become soil. To be worthy of paradise, one must become soil.
It's weird though, right? Because we usually think of dirt as something low. We treat it like, well, like dirt. Don't treat me like dirt. We want to be the flower, not the mud.
But think about what soil is. It is humble. It gets walked on. It is crushed. Yet it is the only substance fertile enough to produce life. You cannot grow a rose in the sky. You cannot grow wheat on a polished diamond. You need the humility of the earth.
The text has this great description of what a pure spirit looks like from the outside. It compares it to a dry raisin branch.
A dry raisin branch.
That's not exactly the image of success I have on my vision board.
No. If you walked past it, you'd think it was dead wood. It's not flashy. It's not screaming for attention. But inside it holds suns in its atoms. It holds the potential for sweetness and life.
But you wouldn't know it unless you looked with the eye of truth.
And to get there, you have to be willing to look like that dry branch. You have to be willing to be unnoticed. That's the hardest part for the ego. The ego wants to shine like neon. It wants a ton of credit. The spirit wants to be hidden like a seed in the soil.
Because seeds only grow when they are covered and hidden.
If you expose a seed to the light too early, it dies.
That is the aha moment for me. We spend so much time polishing the outside, trying to make the branch look shiny. We network, we post, we brag. But the life is in the hidden connection to the earth.
Precisely. We chase numbers. We chase applause. We want the tons of action. But this deep dive reveals that without the essence, the humility, that heart connection, that willingness to become soil, all that weight is an illusion. It's just dust blowing in the wind.
So if we strip it all away, if we take the ton of our daily busyness, the emails, the meetings, the social media posts, and we put them on one side of the scale, and then we take the intent of our heart,
And place it on the other side.
that is the question the text leaves us with.
It is the ultimate challenge. If you stripped away the external praise and the physical volume of your deeds, would your heart be heavy enough to bloom into eternity? Or would it be lighter than a single atom?
It's a terrifying question, but a necessary one. The text ends with a prayer, doesn't it?
It does. It says, "O God, make us known to ourselves, and make us join the nameless ones, the endless ones."
The nameless ones. That's a powerful place to end, to be content with being nameless as long as the essence is there.
That is the essence of action.
Thank you for walking us through this. It's definitely given me a lot to think about regarding my own to-do list. I might need to worry less about how many boxes I check and more about why I'm checking them.
It's been a pleasure. It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest step forward is the one we take inward.
And thank you to everyone listening. I'm leaving you with a bit of homework. Look at the busiest part of your day today and ask yourself, is this a ton of dust or an atom of gold? Until next time, keep diving deep.